Okay, and it looks like we are live. Welcome to the Dice Tower question and answer for February 2016, February 1st. Thank you. The Kickstarter is over. Oh, good. And so now we can move on, although it's going to take 2 weeks apparently to collect all the pledges from everybody before we can even think about sending out surveys. So we'll get to that part of the Kickstarter in a bit. But for now, we need to just keep moving along. So if this is your first time with Q&A, this is the way we're going to do it. I'm going to do half the questions on a website called Q&A. It's Kiunei. If you look in the description of the video, there is a link there. So for the first half, maybe a little bit longer than the first half, I will be answering questions from there, because there, when you go there, you can ask questions and they get upvoted. For the second half, I will come back to the YouTube and start answering questions that are asked at that point. So if you're asking questions on the YouTube channel right now, those will not get answered at all, period. So wait till I say, hey, we're switching over, then you can ask there. And hopefully this is the best for both worlds. I see one guy says, I will refuse to go to Q&A. Well, that's fine, but I'm going to answer the questions on Q&A first, regardless. Let's see. It's over at the Q&A questions. By far, the biggest question is Z okay? Has he gotten any better since last night? For those of you who have been following our Twitter and Facebook and things like that, Z had to go to the hospital yesterday. A pretty bad case of pneumonia. It got kind of complicated. He went to critical care. I just visited him an hour ago, and he is still there, although he is feeling a lot better, he said, than yesterday, but the doctors are still wanting to do tests and things and such, and so he will conceivably be out all week. We'll let you know as time goes by. I know that he is reading the tweets that are sent to him. I don't think he is really tweeting back or doing much else on that, but I know he is reading them. So if you have a chance to go and tweet some well wishes at him, I'm sure he would appreciate that, and we will miss him here. This will slow production down slightly on the Dice Tower with some of the videos that we're posting out this week, but whatever. We'll have enough out anyway beyond that. So I appreciate all that. We will keep you guys updated as to when he goes home and let you guys know. And I really appreciate everyone's thoughts and prayers in that regard. So, second most asked question by far. Congratulations on the Kickstarter. Thank you. Will Laura still agree to record a live play and a Q&A this year, even though you've come a bit short from your 260,000 stretch goal? What about Rado? Greetings from Poland. Well, I was really surprised at how the Kickstarter ended. And in fact, I'm going to be doing a video about thoughts on running a Kickstarter, and I'm going to try to be kind of transparent with the goods and the bad things about running a Kickstarter video. So I'm going to save some of my thoughts till then. But it was very impressive how yesterday went, because people were working really hard to push up their pledge, and like 10 people would add $50, and then one person would cancel a pledge for $250. Then it would happen again, and someone would cancel a pledge, and that happened pretty much all day long. However, the good news is this: a supporter of the Dice Tower has offered to pledge the difference between what we made and our final stretch goal, which means we hit our final stretch goal, which means that, yes, Laura will be doing the Q&A and the gaming, and we will be bringing Rado in for a live gaming session. Huzzah! See, all's well that ends well, and that is good, and we're very thankful for one of our backers doing that. All right, what is your middle name? Tom J. Vasel, right? What does the J stand for? It stands for J. J-A-Y. It's actually a kind of name. When I was a kid, some people call me TJ, but not very many. It never caught on, and it is what it is. I always thought it was odd when parents name their kid and they give them a middle name that they like, and then they call them by that middle name, and I thought, well, why don't you just call them by the first name? You know, if you like the middle name so much, why don't you just give them that name for their first name? But who knows? Okay. Has there been any real good bloopers that weren't captured on video or never made it to a blooper reel for some other reason? Probably. I can't think of any. There's like one that should have made the blooper reel. That's when Jason knocked over the camera, I think in one of our games of Pandemic. Legacy. He knocked over the camera. That I probably should have went and cut that one out, added to the blooper reel. And there's a lot. I'm always like, guys, give me your bloopers, but they don't keep them as much as I do. I've been making so many bloopers this year. I haven't even been saving them all because most of them are just me getting mad that I messed up the words to something. But that's what that is. So maybe, but I don't know of any off the top of my head. What are the most strictly enforced rules at the Vasel household, gaming or otherwise? Well, for gaming, I think it's be a good sport. Really, really, that's a big deal. Whether you're winning or losing, be a good sport. Also, pay attention when I explain the rules. Otherwise, there's all kinds of rules in the Vasel household, but I think the number one rule is keep the house clean. Good luck keeping that one occupied. In today's Board Game Breakfast, you had a few references to how old the bigger part of your viewers are. How do you know that? Do you keep statistics, or is that just a general feeling? I don't actually keep statistics, although I can see the statistics of the people who both back the Dice Tower and watch our videos, and they certainly trend to middle age, or even sometimes older than that. There's younger viewers, and if you're young and watching this video, thank you. I appreciate that, and I'm going to be working. That's one of the things I'm trying to work on with my channel, is to see if I can get some people in to kind of appeal to younger viewers. We want to bring people into gaming as a whole, but for the most part, it definitely is. Mostly people. The biggest group of fans of our show are people who are my age or even a little bit older. I don't know why that is, but I think it's just also that's a big chunk of gaming in general in part of the hobby. There's also another huge part of the hobby which we need to tap into. Like I've been watching some of the stuff that I'm seeing from PAX South, and I'm thinking we really probably ought to get one of these PAX conventions under our belts and start going to those. Let's see. Are there any concerns about the overhead costs that come from leasing a space for the Dice Tower studio? Oh yes, there's lots of concerns about that. I have some thoughts and some ideas on that, but I really can't share those right now until it happens, and it will be a while until it happens. It will be at least in probably Q3 of this year if it happens then. If you were to make the world's best burrito ever, what would you put in it? I'm not a huge burrito guy. I like burritos, but I like tacos way, way better than burritos. But I'd put chicken in it, of course. More steak, but probably chicken. Sour cream, guacamole, tomatoes, lettuce, beans. You know, like a 7-layer burrito, but maybe make 14 layers. Are you surprised by the amount of exciting news that came from the Nuremberg Toy Fair? Yes, I'm very surprised on that one. I did not expect that much stuff to be announced there, especially big stuff. So I'm probably going to have to add that to our schedule next year. Somebody's going to have to go there and check that fair out so we can keep up with these announcements. Did anything come of the Kickstarter last year that was a line of yet-to-be-named games by well-known designers? Well, that's from Calliope Games. I don't know that they've published any of those yet. I believe a few of them were going to be published this year. I don't know. I expressed some reservations on it. I don't know that you should back a Kickstarter based on the designers' names, and these designers are doing games for this that are not the really, really good games that they're giving to other publishers. I don't know. We'll see. I'm certainly willing to be proven wrong. I would love if these games were great. We'll find out when people start getting these games. Essentially, you've subscribed, if you back this Kickstarter, to a game service where you're going to get a couple games per year. Let's see. I believe it was called something with Titans. The Titan series of games from Calliope Games, and they've announced that they're going to be fulfilling the first round in 2016. So I actually do not know which ones will be out at this point in time, but yeah, it's called the Titan Gaming series. Okay, for those of you, if you're first coming into this, don't forget, for the first part of this video, I'm not answering any questions on YouTube. Instead, I'm going to be answering questions from the link there, the KIUNEI Q&A. So there's a link on the side there. Okay, so anyhow, what are your strongest biases as a reviewer, player, industry insider, etc.? I'm not really sure what that means. The strongest bias, I mean, obviously I'm biased towards theme. I'm obviously biased towards things that look pretty, although neither one of those will guarantee I like a game. In fact, if it's pretty and or has a cool theme, but the game is not good, that makes me even angrier than if a game looks bad. Like this week, I'm reviewing a game that looks really bad, and it was okay. And I don't like it that much. And I'm going to say that in the review, but I'm not like furious about it because I didn't expect it to be good. However, and I'm not doing any of those this week, but there have been times where I've seen a very beautiful game and I'm like, oh, this is going to be amazing. And you played it and you're like, what? That is probably my biggest bias. I judge books by their covers and then I'm irritated when the inside of the book is not that good. What are your favorite fake board games in popular culture? Well, I always got a good chuckle out of the Cones of Dunshire from Parks and Recreation. But, you know, then someone tried to make that one real. And I don't know, I guess it got less funny when it became real. The Star Trek chess thing was always one that I was fascinated by. Calvin Ball, I'm always a big fan of the Calvin Ball. It's not a board game, I guess, but who knows what Calvin Ball is. I'm sure there's other fake games as time goes by. Oh, Jumanji, I guess, is a fake game. Who were the people who inspired you or were considered mentors by you when you was younger? You know, I have a good relationship with my dad. And my dad is somebody who I go to for advice. I'm not sure I ever considered him a mentor, though. My dad and I are so very different in many aspects. I mean, we're very same somewhere maybe in our attitudes and things. But, like, he had zero interest in computers. And he liked gaming, but not very much. Did not like computer gaming at all. He did teach me to read, and he taught me to love music. So we have, there's a lot of similarities, but like today, we're very different people. I love my dad, and we get along with him fine. I'm just saying we're very different people. And I really didn't have anybody, many adults in my life as a kid, who I really was mentored under in that regard. So I just kind of turned to books. I just read. I read everything. I read fiction, I read nonfiction, I read biographies, I read all sorts of things. And that was a big influence on my life. When I got to college, I met some people who mentored me. I had a couple teachers at college who I still remember very fondly, and someone who was not a teacher who mentored me. And so that was good. Folks, I'm going to take a quick 10-second break here. I'm going to turn my mic off. I'll be back in just a moment. All right. Sorry about that. I'm back. So let's continue on with the questions. Don't forget, if this is your first time here at questions, there's a link on the side, and we're answering questions there. Hey, Jimmy just popped in. Anyway, it says, how are the interviews for a video editor coming along? I'm working through those. There's a lot of people who have done that, and I'm not going to say much more on that subject right now because I have a lot of good prospects on a lot of things, but I do not want, it's going to be kind of internal for a while until we decide who that is, and we'll announce it. It could be in a week, it could be months till we announce somebody, but we'll find somebody and we'll try to get the best person that we can. In breakfast today, at the end, you showed the closet. Is that games you're ashamed of? Games to be reviewed? What is it? That's actually games to be reviewed. I have a system here where we have downstairs in my garage are games. There's 2 shelves down there. There's games that I have reviewed and I'm getting rid of, and that need to be boxed. So every once in a while that shelf gets full, then we box it all up. to take the Dice Tower count. We already have 23 boxes filled, and then the shelf's ready to put a couple more boxes on it. Then the other shelves are games to be played. Then when a game is played, we bring it up to the closet here, and that's games to be reviewed or to be played more, but they've already been played some. Then after they're played, then they go out. The games behind me are games I love and am going to keep. That's also my tie closet, my pieces closet, my hat closet, and there's a few other odds and ends that I keep in there. All right. Is there a chance that you might consider creating a Dice Tower seal of atrocity that publishers could use to make it apparent at a glance what games may make appropriate gifts for customers' enemies? All right. You can play with that later. Anyhow, no. A seal of atrocity, even as silly, that's going to hurt and be mean, and I don't want to do that. As someone else already mentioned, that a seal of disapproval type things. It's just not something I want to do. I'm sure that there would be at least one publisher who would put it on their game gladly, and they'd be like, "Yeah, Tom hates our game, yeah." But then I don't know. No, I don't really want to do that. Any word of another Robinson Crusoe reprint in 2016? I haven't heard of that, but I do know that they're going to be printing that Mars game that's based on the same license, which I'm very, very excited about. Okay, let's refresh here and check out the new Q&As. Don't forget, asking questions in the YouTube channel is not going to get anywhere. What's the worst game you saw someone try to use as a gateway game? Oh man, I've seen this happen a lot. Trying to think, what's the worst game I've seen someone try to use as a gateway game? I believe I saw someone once try to use Twilight Imperium 3. I've definitely seen Game of Thrones being used as a gateway game, not a good one. These are great games, but they're not games that you should use as a gateway game. But I've certainly seen those. That's a good question. I don't know of many off the top of my head. Is there a specific hero or two that you would still like to see added to Marvel Legendary? Wow, Marvel Legendary seemingly has most of the heroes. It's probably missing a couple that I'm not thinking about. You know what I'd like to see happen to Marvel Legendary, and I'd like to see them get the DC license and start chucking those guys into that same system. That's what I would like to see. Or Image, or some other superheroes. But they really have a lot of the main big ones. I'll say Speedball, because I don't believe that they've done him yet. So that would be cool. Any of the anyone from his gang. I think they've done Justice. If they haven't done Justice, I'd like to see Justice too. All right. Is it? Oh, okay. Well, I just answered that. All right. Let's mark that as answered. All right. What is the worst candy or other sweet in existence? There's some candies I've had that I haven't liked. There's those ones at the store sell that look like fruit. I've seen these in chocolate stores. I forget what they're called, but I just never been a big fan of those. They look like they're delicious and sweet and fruity, and they're not. But I forget the name of those are. There's not much candy that I don't like. Maybe I'm not a big fan of Baby Ruths that much. They're okay. There's not much that I just dislike. I like most candy. What gaming companies are growing and hiring by chance? Most of the game companies are growing. Which are hiring, I don't know. So this is something we could talk about here briefly, though. A lot of people ask and they say things like, I want to get into the board game hobby. I want to get into the industry. I've had people write me some long emails and earnestly say, I've gotten like this email like every 4 or 5 months, or someone will email me and say, you know what? I've decided that I want to be working in the board game industry. How do I do that? Try to get a job, I guess, but these kind of things usually happen naturally. It's not like one day someone wakes up and goes, I want to be in the board game industry. Now, if you have a lot of money, you can be in the board game industry. Not a problem there. You just start your own company. But if you don't have a lot of money, I have seen almost everyone in the board game industry, it has worked out like this. They were ordinary people going to conventions. They liked board games, or they designed board games. That's a way to get in the industry. And they kept going to conventions. They started making friends. They started demoing at conventions. And as time went by, they were then hired by these different companies. Sometimes they have skills that companies need, and they bring them in, of course, different things. But who's hiring and when they're hiring, I don't know. Each company is different. Wow, we're up to 100 questions, but most of them do not have tons of votes. Do I have any idea on the Spiel nominees this year? I do not. I wouldn't know what would be picked for that. I think, off the top of my head, well, I mean, now that Sheriff of Nottingham is in Germany, maybe that should be a nominee. But I think that the Treasure Hunter from Richard Garfield Queen Games, I think that's a strong candidate. Automania, but I don't think Automania has enough buzz or widespreadness to get in there. Adventureland from Haba, that would be a good choice. So those are three that I would put in off the top of my head. All right. I don't think, I'll say the chance of Automania making it, I think, is almost nothing. The chance of Treasure Hunter, I don't know. That'd be pretty interesting to see a Hava game in the Spiel des Jahres. So I'm rooting for that one. Actually, I would, any of the three that they just came out with, Karuba or Spookies. Any of those three, but I think Adventureland's the best. And then the Treasure Hunter from Richard Garfield with his name, and the game itself is drafting and simple and easy to get into, and Queen Games has had a Spiel des Jahres before, so I think that one is possible. I'll give that one a 50% chance. Other than that, there's probably some games that have been released that I haven't even seen yet. Nuremberg, usually there's at least one that comes out at Nuremberg Fair, which is, just happened last week, so who knows. How will you choose who to play games with on the cruise, since you obviously won't be able to play with everyone who might want to play a game with you? That's probably true, but I mean, I'm just going to let it happen naturally, really. And so I get in the games. I mean, if you're someone who gets up early, you have a really good chance, because I get up early. But Sam and Z and Jason and Eric will be there, so there'll be plenty of people to play games with. And there will be other fun people that like to game there also. And so we'll just have to see how the chips fall, really. But if you haven't signed up for the cruise yet, folks, you should. It is almost half filled, I believe, or getting there. And I know that it's consistently selling, and so it will eventually sell out. So don't miss out on that. You want to come. It's going to be a lot of fun. Oh, let's see here. Medieval Academy or Treasure Hunter, and why? That's a good call. Oh, Medieval Academy technically wasn't eligible for the Spiel yet last year. That's another good choice too. Well, I kept Medieval Academy, did not keep Treasure Hunter, but it's pretty close. I think I like Medieval Academy slightly better, but Treasure Hunter is pretty solid. And Z has it, so we have both games, so it doesn't matter. I don't really have any strong reasons for one or the other. They're both drafting. I think Medieval Academy is a little easier to get into. I think I like it a little bit more, how simple it is. Treasure Hunter, though, I would almost say they're equal, in my opinion. What are my weight loss strategies? Mostly eating less food, which is really a big deal for me. I would go and, like, for dinner, I would eat seconds. I would just eat till there was no food left, and then I would eat a snack. Stopping doing that considerably. Also, I drink pretty much water or 0-calorie drinks, but mostly water. I mentioned in one of my videos that someone had created a master list of board gaming conventions for the year. It was the Casual Game magazine folks who had done that. I don't have a link to that right now, but maybe you can find that if you see things. Asmodee North America has a new preferred pricing for retail stores, which has not happened yet. Will happen in April when it does. How do you foresee it affecting Cool Stuff being there both online and brick and mortar? Same pricing or increase for their online prices? Well, probably an increase, but since it's for new games, it's just gonna you're gonna just see those games will be a little bit more expensive than previous games. For their local store, possibly, although most of the local stores, the inventory comes from the online. So I'm actually not sure how they're separate there. That would probably be a better question for Cool Stuff. Don't forget, I'm not answering questions from YouTube, but answering them from this website, Q&A. You've done top 10 lists for best 2, 3, and 6 player games. Any chance you'll do a list for 4 and 5? Yeah, probably at some point. The thing is with 4 and 5, that's almost like saying, what are your favorite games? But we will probably do them. I'm just not sure when. We have a long list of top 10s for this year. A lot of top 10 lists. I know we're good for 2016 easily, but you never know. I've heard rumors that a new version of Agricola will be released this year. Can you provide any details on this? Is it still a Z-Man game or has it moved to Mayfair since they now own Lookout Games? Yes, as far as I can tell, Mayfair, from the news I got from Board Game Geek, Mayfair is producing a family version of Agricola and an upgrade kit. Those are the two I know. I believe the license is completely transferring over this year, I think. So I would imagine we'll see that from Mayfair. Hopefully it's good quality. Do fans send you gifts, hats, ties, and other stuff? Occasionally. I think I've gotten 3 or 4 hats and probably the same amount of ties as time goes by. I really like when that happens. That's way more exciting to me than getting a board game, because I get board games all the time, right? And it's like, oh yeah, board game. When I open a box, like, wow, a hat, a tie, chocolate, whatever. Someone just sent me some custom dice for Arkham Horror. Oh, that was really cool. That sort of thing gets me more excited, I think, than anything else. And I'm so happy when things like that happen. What publishers were you the most disappointed to see close their doors and shut down? I'm disappointed that Avalon Hill, the new version that Hasbro started, kind of faded off the scene. They're still around, but it's not the same thing. That I'm very disappointed by. I'm disappointed that face-to-face games went away. I'm disappointed that Uberplay kind of faded off the scene because they were kind of this cool, fresh company, and they tried to do too much at one time. And now basically all the resources are wrapped up in Simply Fun, which is awesome. I don't know. I don't know what games. There's some companies. But you know, there's a lot of publishers go out of business, and it's just part of life and stuff. But how would you make a game store in a small town successful? I would probably move it to a larger town. Or, you know, I mean, how would I make a game store successful? I have not run a game store, so I may not be the best person to ask on this subject, but I would make it so that the people who were in my area, I'd make them feel bad for not coming in. They feel like they're missing out. This would be a place that was rocking and fun and clean and interesting and exciting. That's what I would try to do. That sure looked like a lot of ties. How big is that collection? I believe I've a little over 100 ties. I really like ties. When I lived in Korea, most of those ties were when I lived in Korea. You could get ties for like $2. So I would, every time I was at these places that had ties, I would hunt down some ties and get them. Love ties. Nowadays, ties are, like, I always look at the J. Garcia ties. I love J. Garcia ties. They're so bright and colorful. They're my favorite ties, and they're so expensive. Every once in a while, I'm at Kohl's at the right time, and they got one for like 75% off or whatever, and it's like $2, $3, $4. I'm like, yeah! But that doesn't happen very often. Also, whenever I go to a thrift store, I look for 3 things: hats, ties, and board games. And books. 4 things. And toys for my kids. 5. But I always look at the ties there. They're usually not very good, but every once in a while I find a tie that's pretty cool. I got a Christmas tie last year that I liked a lot. Where do you get the dramatic music For your intros and top 10s and other videos, I use a website called Smart Sound. I really like Smart Sound because what Smart Sound lets me do is it can pick and say, I want a music that's 17 seconds long, and I go through and you buy the music, and once you buy it, you can shorten and lengthen it as long as you like. That is great. I've invested a lot of money into the different music at Smart Sound. I would say I have the rights to probably half their library at this point, and I'm constantly adding. I'll be adding a couple more tracks. I'm always looking for the perfect track. Of course, we don't always find it. Smart Sound is not complete by any means, but I thought they do a good job. And a few of their tunes, like the Miami Dice tune, the tune that we used to play at the end of the top 10s, the one that goes bum bum ba-da-dum, stuff like that. Some of those tunes are pretty catchy. I like them a lot. So that's where I go. Oh, but I mean, some of the music we have is from some of the music that we have is from Timothy Pinkham, and other people have done music for our stuff too. All right. Well, I'm going to do a few more questions from the Q&A, and then we're going to move over to the YouTube. How do you decide the size of your collection? You're currently at a fixed number, and I'm wondering how you came up with that number. I did not come up with that number at all. Essentially, I just had space for it. And so, and it was really close to the number of days of the year, 365, and I was like, yeah, that's cool. I like that. And I like having an odd number. I don't want 400 games. And it does fluctuate occasionally. I'll add a game and don't get rid of the games, you know. But usually it hasn't fun mixed. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm keeping this game. I'm going to move this one. I'm like, I'm going to get rid of 3 games here. So there's actually some holes in the collection, especially you can't see them over on this side over here. There are several spots where I could add games. I could probably add, I think, like maybe 9, 10 games right now, and actually not have to get rid of any. I probably would have kept Star Wars Rebellion if Sam had not kept it. I like that one. That one probably would have made my collection, but there's no reason for us both to have it. How can you describe your experience of designing board games? It was fun, a lot of work, and I don't miss it. What's the hardest thing about game designing in your opinion? Hearing people just trash your game, I'm sure. And I get sick of playing the same game all the time. Do you plan on designing new games in the future? Well, I'm not going to say never to that. I might design games in the future, but I'm not currently doing so now, and I'm not planning on doing so. Let's see here. Are you looking forward to the new Coliseum reprint? Sure. I'm curious to see what it's like. I'm not a huge fan of the artwork on the cover. I don't hate it as much as some people do. But I'm more interested in what the game itself is going to look like. They have a high hurdle, really, because the Coliseum game for Days of Wonder was amazing. So to reprint that is a high hurdle to make that look good. What is my favorite Korean side dish? The little quail eggs that are soaked in soy sauce, probably. Those are really, really good. But ochingha with some spice on it, which is dried squid. That's pretty good too. I really, there's almost none of those Korean side dishes that I don't like. When I get a meal, I'm like, oh, forget everything else. I'm eating Korean side dishes. I love Korean food. I need to go to a Korean restaurant. Do you prefer Imperial Song campaign or skirmish mode? It probably depends on the mood that I'm in. The mood I've been in lately, I would rather play the skirmish mode. Would you... hang on, I need to refresh this and see where the questions are. How many hours do you work in a single day? It all depends. At least 10, usually. Do you work on weekends too? Usually. But I mean, I just do different things. Sometimes I don't work at all. Sometimes I work and not work at the same time. For example, this past Saturday, I spent many hours playing games with my kids. And we had a great time. Now, I'm going to review those games that I played with them. But at the same time, I was having a blast with my kids. Does that work? Does it not work? I don't know. Either way, ain't a horrible way to spend a Saturday. Who was your childhood celebrity crush? I don't know if I had one. I always had a crush when I was a kid on like this imaginary girl, like someone in my dreams who I saved, you know, from getting run over by a terrorist or something to that effect. I didn't have any particular person in mind, I think, until I met her one day, and then of course, oh, so that's who I had a crush on all these years. Can you say hi to my daughter Evie? Hello, Evie. What is the oldest game? No, I've answered that question so many times. I'm not answering that one again. Let's see here. I think we're about to move to YouTube. Hang on. Let's see if there's any last questions here. Do you have any advice to help encouraging the board game world to be more inclusive to all? Just do it. Seriously, just do it. Be inclusive. I don't know why there has to be like methods and strategies. Just do it. Don't say, oh, well, you ladies wouldn't be interested in this game. No, just be inclusive. And most of that is how people act. Be nice. Be fun to play games with. Have a great time. Don't be divisive in what you say. You got to watch really carefully what you say. A lesson I have learned many times. I'm not always perfect in that regard, but we have to be very cautious, I think, in how we act around other people. We should make our demeanor a pleasant and fun one. I'm someone who likes to joke, and I joke a lot when I'm playing games such. And sometimes that joking is not found funny by some people, and I have to be very cautious in that regard, I found in time. But you want to be inclusive, then you just got to be friendly. All right, so we're going to move over to YouTube now, and so I'm going to start reading YouTube comments right now. So if you have already put comments on YouTube, then sorry, but I told you that was going to happen at the beginning of the video. So I'm going to start answering questions on YouTube. Thank you to everybody who asked the questions on Q&A. We'll do this each time, so maybe if your question didn't get answered this time, you can throw it in there next time. And again, I'm not going to answer all these questions in here. What game designer do you like but hasn't created a new game in a few years? Ooh, that's a good question. Who's a game designer? Well, I off the top of my head, has Jason Matthews done a game lately? Because I'm really intrigued with his stuff. I'm always interested to see what he is, and I don't believe he's come out with a game in a while. Andres Seifert, the guy who did Puerto Rico, has he done a game in a while either? Those would be two that come to the top of my head. Do you think that the Spiel des Jahres now should expand the nominee count to 5? If it was me, yes. I think 3 is really limiting. I really liked 5. It also makes who wins the award more interesting. When there's 3, sometimes it's pretty easy to cut one of those out, so then it's just between the other 2. I don't know. 5 seems better, but it's their award. Let's see here. What kind of Apple Watch do you have? Are they worth the money? I don't know if they're worth the money yet. I bought the cheapest one, a sports one. I like it. It's useful. The most useful things I found it for are, in order, letting me know my phone rings. This buzzes. It's great. I could be in church or somewhere else where my phone, vibrating or whatever. And this, I do not feel the phone. This I feel a whole lot more. And text, it's easy to glance there, see a text from somebody, and keep talking. Number 2, driving. Very useful when I'm driving. I can look there for directions. I love it for that. And then 3, keeping track of health stuff. I really enjoy that. Although recently, I got a game. I hadn't had a game for this watch yet, but called Lifeline, which was a really intriguing game. Basically, it's like a choose-your-own-adventure where like this guy calls and like, I'm stranded on a planet. You're the only person I got in touch with. What should I do next? And he gives you 2 choices, or she. The person's name is Taylor. For some reason, I thought of him as a he. But anyway. And then you give them the choice, and then they'll be like, okay, you want me to walk over there? I'll go over there. I'll get back to you when I'm there. So it might be like an hour before they get back to you again. So it's really intriguing. I killed Taylor once, and then I won the game, I think, with the best ending possible after that. But it was a pretty good story. I'm going to do the next one, but I'm kind of like taking a breather because it was at the end. I was like, come on, Taylor, you can do it. So that was kind of cool on the Apple Watch, but you can play that on the phone too. What's the theme that will be in this year like pirates, zombies of years past? Okay, so we had zombies, we had pirates. I wonder if Vikings, we're going to see that because we already saw a lot of Vikings. Will we see more Vikings this year? That may be it. So I'm going to go with Vikings, I think, for now. We'll see. What's your favorite flavor of beef jerky? I like almost all flavors of beef jerky. Probably pepper steak, black pepper, but I really like teriyaki, honey roasted, sriracha. They're all good. I'm really easy going on that. What's the strangest fan experience you've ever had? I remember a guy stopping me in the middle of the street at Gen Con and trying to explain his game to me, and I was like, sir, we're in the middle of a street. We can't do this here. Nothing too strange, really. Nothing that I would consider strange. Maybe other people would consider it strange. What are top 10 noisy games for Jimmy to play while doing a live stream? Noise. What do you have there? This is a storybook rhymes where you can turn the pages and then it will, I think you press a, oh, I turned off the music on this, but you, yeah, you can learn things. I don't know. These are okay, but they can get really annoying, especially when the batteries are dying on them. Like, yellow lion, welcome. And that, there was one time, and this was years ago, we're talking 13 years ago probably, where we had a book in the house that it went off in the middle of the night and freaked me out. I was like, and I went and the book was dying and I couldn't turn it off and it just kept going, blah, blah, blah. So I got a hammer. Got a hammer and took care of that book. Probably not the wisest thing. The kids never noticed. They were asleep. And they never missed the book, so I feel okay. The spiciest food you have ever eaten. Well, I'm assuming we're going to leave off the Dave's Ultimate Insanity and these super, super hot sauces, which are just ridiculous. But just normal spicy food. I believe when I was in Thailand, we went to this place and they're like, hey, we can, this is very spicy, this food. And I was like, please. I eat hot sauces all the time. And I was amazed at how much that blew my mouth out. But it was so good. So good. I like Thai spice a lot. I like Thai food. Where did you get board games in English while you were in Korea? Well, I got them from America. They just had them shipped over. Let's see. Again, I'm not answering every question. I'm just answering the questions that I find to be fascinating and interesting and ones I would like to answer. So, oh, can you consider using the 1 to 10 ratings for Miami Dice reviews instead of thumbs? No. I like the thumb rating system. Who cares? Besides, if you watch our weekend review, we always put a number on our reviews then there. So if you really must have the number, go watch the weekend review. We always attach a number there. Or on Board Game Geek, I post a number somewhere. If you had to choose between lobster claws or obstacle tentacles for hands, what would it be? Well, tentacles, I'm sure. Why do people ask questions like that? I've always been confused, but what have you. What was your impression of the Star Wars Rebellion rulebook? I heard some criticism against it saying it was terrible. I believe you're speaking of a very specific review, which I saw for Star Wars Rebellion, because there's very few out there. And the person who wrote their review, I believe they were writing it for a major video game site, maybe. I'm under the impression that they have not played a lot of games from Fantasy Flight, because that rulebook was very typical of the Fantasy Flight rulebooks, and I did not find it very confusing at all. You know, there's some rule books that I'm like, oh, I cannot believe this rule book. But I found that rule book, I really liked it. It was very nicely laid out. The second rule book has the index and everything. I love the new way Fantasy Flights are doing their rule books. And it seemed to work fine for me. There might be some niggling rules things that we didn't know about, maybe, or such. But for the most part, the rule book was very clear and succinct on how it teaches you the game. So, difference of opinion. So, I'm pretty sure the writer who did say it, the rule book was, I mean, he spent a good chunk of his review talking about that. I'm just assuming that it was confusing for him, but that's probably, I'm guessing he doesn't have experience with a lot of games, because there are way worse rulebooks out there. I thought this was actually, if I was like ranking rulebooks from 1 as the worst and 10 as the best, this is definitely in the top half, that it was a good rulebook. Have you tried Catan Traveler? It's in my closet of games to review. Once again, I like to point out that if you continue to ask the same question over and over, that actually does not make me answer it. Other than the Dice Tower Awards, what is the best board game award? Like, what do I care about? I would say that easily the award that I'm most interested in, other than the Dice Tower Awards, is the Spiel des Jahres. I find that award incredibly fascinating. I find it very intriguing to see who wins that one. What do you think is better as a two-player game, Blood Rage or Kemet? I would not probably wish to play either of those with 2 players. I'd play Battle Lore instead. I always find this kind of fascinating because people are like, all these games, how do you play them 2-player? And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? There are so many amazing, great 2 players out there that are only 2 players. And then you have 2 players. Now you have your opportunity to play these great games. You can play all these fun 2-player games, like, for example, Star Wars Rebellion and War of the Ring and this. And so I wouldn't even try to shoehorn some of these multiplayer games into that. I just play those with multiplayer. Is there any chance you'd review Walnut Grove? I guess. I haven't got a copy of it. If I got it, I would probably review it. A lot of people are asking the same questions over and over again and again. That doesn't work. Will you be getting the updated job cards for Pursuit of Happiness through the Kickstarter? No, I didn't know they updated the job cards, but that would be interesting because I think the job cards was my weakest thematic link to the game. So it's nice. I don't follow Kickstarters that much, so it's nice to know that they're changing those. Did you beat Rodney Smith when you played him in Kemet? Well, as much as I would like to say yes, I also cannot say no because we did not finish the game. However, I feel like I would have. I feel it. I feel it in my bones. So it's possible. It's possible that you'll see a rematch of that someday. It's really like I'm like, am I actually scrolling these questions? Because the same questions keep getting asked over and over again. The worst flavor of ice cream. I am not a fan of coffee ice cream. I don't like coffee though, so that's probably why. And it's sad because I've had some really good ice creams and then coffee's in it. The people you keep asking the same questions over and over. I'm almost close to banning some of you guys. Oh my. How did you start YouTube? I'm actually doing a full podcast on that in the future, so I'm going to save that for there. Thoughts on Dominion Empires? Well, I'm looking forward to it. Another expansion for Dominion. Why not? I like Dominion. But if, let's say that I got a call and they're like, Tom, Dominion Empires was just canceled. I'd go, oh well. There's so much good stuff in Dominion already. I'll never be able to make all the combinations. I think I'll survive without another expansion, but I'm gonna get it. All right, jumping down. What is your least favorite game that you play due to social or other reasons? That would be almost any kid's game. I play those with my kids. We just played an interesting one where you had to pick up, I forget the name of it. It's about dragons. You had to pick up Dragon Piece where you both are pushing it with a stick. That was a hilarious game, and I'm glad to be done with that one. What's your favorite Korean board game? Well, I still have Cat and Fish, so maybe that's that one. That's a cool worker placement game. Why don't I put nothing personal on my top 10 list? Because I designed it. I can't put a game I designed in top 10s. That's just lame. I will not do that one probably. Over Christmas, my wife told me she is pregnant with our 4th child. Do you have any advice for me? Hey, celebrate. 4 is not that much harder than 3. When you went from 2 to 3, that was a big change. Going from 3 to 4 is not as big of a change. I did notice a change from 6 to 7, though. Just saying. It's a lot. What was the hardest part of being a new father? I think the hardest part of being a new father is just realizing you have the responsibility for someone else's life in your hands. With all due deference to people who don't have children, having children matured me, I think, more than anything else. Getting married is one thing. You got to learn to share and get along with another person. Having kids, you need to grow up. You really do. You can still be a kid at heart and still that, but you got to be responsible because babies can die in like a kabillion ways, and it's your job to make sure that doesn't happen. To take that such a fragile thing and watch them as they grow, and you got to be there, and you're thinking all the time that you're going to mess it up, and hopefully not. That will mature you more than anything else. There is no way Tom would have won. Lies. Well, I feel like we can prove this if we did it live at our gaming thing. Now, there will be some disadvantages to that. First of all, that means Monaco will also be there, and we all know he hates me, so that's 2 to 1. Of course, if I whoop them both, then that would feel pretty good because you know, even with their illegal collusion, I could defeat them. And then Sam and Z will be there, and you know, Sam will probably join the bad guys there. It will probably end up being 4-on-1, but I feel like that would be even odds for me and Kemet against them, and I think I still might pull that one off. But if I did lose, it would be because of that unethical collusion between such... I can't even think of a good adjective, actually. I lost that train of thought. But I shall beat them. We will see. Who's your favorite reviewer from the Dice Tower? Probably Tom Vasel. I do tend to agree with him the most. After that, maybe Melody. Are you training a new daughter to be on the Dice Tower, or will Melody be the only one? I don't train them at all. We just... It's whoever plays games with me else. Actually, I find myself playing a lot more games with Holly these days than Melody, but who knows? Let's see here. The Veenhouse Kickstarter has shipping of $38 for internal Europe. What can be done to reduce shipping for us gamers? I don't know. Don't buy it if you think shipping's too high. Shipping is pretty high. I don't for a lot of things. Shipping's just high in general. I don't think there's a lot we can do about it. Would you ever consider a guest voiceover on Tales of Horror? I guess, but Eric does such a good job. Who would I want to guest host on that? Eric's so great at it. There's a lot of people saying, when are you going to review this? When are you going to review that? We are literally playing games nonstop around here, it seems. We have so many games. We have gotten through a lot of them. I'm reviewing a lot this week, although almost every game I'm reviewing this week is not like a hot buzz game. But those games need to be reviewed too, and I think some of them are going to be interesting to people. Well, actually, I think Nautilus Industries is getting a lot of buzz, right? So that's one that we'll be reviewing this week. How long have you been living in your house? 2 years. And is it your favorite so far? Yeah, I think so. I really like this house a lot. What is the game directly behind you with the yellow box next to Cosmo? Oh, no, I'm not answering that question no more. Too bad. I'm going to review that game so people can just stop asking me. That gets asked every single time. Why didn't we finish Kemet? We didn't finish Kemet because we simply ran out of time. It was super late at night. Steve Avery was falling asleep. He had to go home, and it was long. It took us a while. It was also not the best place to play Kemet. The lighting wasn't that good and everything. It just didn't work out well. And I needed to get to bed. So we had to call it. I am loving the fact that some people seriously just continue to ask the same questions over and over again. That's hilarious. It's like the sound is turned off, but anyhow. If you could live in a board game world, which would it be? Probably Candyland. Would you ever consider adding a pet to your household? I'd like to get a dog at some point, but we need to be able to have a dog that we can have and that's not taking up more time for us to watch. 7 kids is enough already, thanks. A lot of people just keep saying, when are you going to review this? When are you going to review that? I'm going to review this stuff as quickly as I possibly can. I promise. We're going to work hard at getting this stuff done. Is that a mic in your shirt? Well, yes. We have not got the new mics yet because we still haven't got the money yet from the Kickstarter. Once we get that and we get things done, I would say hopefully you'll see the new mics by the end of March. My goal is to have them by the time we do the Gamma Trade Show coverage. Holly did well in the Cat Tower review. She also did well in Cat Tower Play. I still have not won a game of Cat Tower yet. It's really annoying. Have you heard rumors of any other Crossroad games? Yes, the next one they're making is Space, although it looks like they're making another Dead of Winter one. I mean, why mess with a sure thing, right? So that's going to be interesting there. If Jumanji was real, would you play it? No, I don't think so. I mean, I like the idea of the rhinos coming out, but everything else, like those insects that were killing people and getting sucked into a jungle for 20 years, I don't really think that sounds like it's fun, so no. Did I get as excited with the new Mysterium expansion as I did with all the Dixit ones? No, but that's because I like Dixit a lot more than I like Mysterium. Ooh, I'm kind of caught up in questions. Is Eric an employee of the Dice Tower like Sam and Z? He is not. Eric just works with Dice Tower part-time as a full-time job as an audio. He does audio books. He does audio engineering for different companies, technical books and things, but mostly nowadays he is reading books online. And so you may have heard him every once in a while listening to some of his books. I don't know. It's up to you. What are you coming up to Toronto for? I'm coming up to Toronto. I'm going to a convention in Niagara Falls, and so we're taking a day trip to Toronto to do 2 things. We're going to go see the Gaming Cafe, Snakes and Lattes, which I'm excited about, and we're going to go watch a Toronto Blue Jays game, which is cool by me. I like baseball, and the Blue Jays are my favorite team. Will I be able to play games with them there? Probably not. I can't imagine that. I think we're going to stop and look at the cafe, and that's it. I'll probably take video of it, of course, but... Hey, it's 1:30, so I guess we're gonna end with a whimper. Come on now, I gotta end with a question though. Have you read any books by Brandon Sanderson? Yeah, I read the Robert Jordan series, and so Brandon finished that series off. He did an excellent job, I thought. I mean, considering what he had to work with. The last book was not as fantastic as I had hoped, But it was decent. And I know that a lot of it, he was shackled by Robert Jordan's stuff, so I would like to actually read some of his stuff on his own. I will eventually do that at some point, because I thought he picked up and did a good job on that. If Zathura was real, would you play that one? Yeah, that one I would do. Do we ever make you hungry for anything with our food-related questions? Oh, yes. Yes, you do. And I haven't even eaten lunch yet. But I think I'm having soup. Did you ever just throw a game in the garbage after your first playthrough? I have. And with that, we'll end the question and answer time for today. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Continue to think about and send well wishes and pray for Z. Just keep an eye out. Like I said, Z is 1/3 of our team, so that you don't see everything that he does in front of the scenes, but he does help us and work on stuff. So me and Sam are going to try to pick up the slack and get things out this week as much as we can, but we're not going to get it, just not going to get as much stuff out. But that's just how the cookie crumbles. Although we do have Chaz on board now, so you'll see a few things from him this week. But other than that, guys, I appreciate you stopping by and spending an hour of your Monday with me. I appreciate all the questions, especially from those of you who asked them once. I hope that you have a great week. February is here. Groundhog Day is soon. Winter will be eventually leaving, right? Oh, wait. It already left here. Ha, 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 ha. I love South Florida. All right, guys. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.